you should not be waiting on policy changes, right? On an individual level, you should take care of yourself. Buy yourself some real food and get up. Gary believes that we were wonderfully and fearfully created, and the things that we need to prosper and thrive are available to us without having to be made by humans.
They're killing us, and we're allowing it. And the only way that we're going to be able to stop it is to take back control of our own lives. We're the only ones who are going to care about ourselves the most. Like, they don't care. There is something really, really wrong in this country. We're sick and tired of being sick and tired. And Rich and I have been looking into what's really going on.
Welcome to the Dustermud podcast. I'm Rich.
And I'm Shelley.
In the Dustermud podcast, we like to talk about food, freedom, and farming. And I believe that the topic today is another all-encompassing topic. We'll hit on all three.
Yeah. Food, what we eat.
Yep.
It comes from farming. Well, it should.
Well,
and
we'll talk
freedom.
about how we can make it better if it did.
Right. And freedom. I believe that being sick and tired is very, not free.
And the people in the United States can't even join the military these days.
Well, and that's a problem. That's a national security issue, I guess.
Definitely touches on freedom.
For sure. We were sent a podcast a few days ago, and it's a really long podcast, but we believe that it might be one of the best podcasts in this space discussing our health or our sickness and how we got here.
Yeah, Gary Breka was the guest on Sean Ryan's podcast, The Sean Ryan Show, and we've listened to Gary on other podcasts. He has his own, The Ultimate Human podcast, and this particular one really seemed to wrap it up better than anywhere we've ever heard it or heard him talking.
Yeah, like put a nice little neat bow on some of the issues that we're having. And some of the really, honestly, guys, it's simple. It really is simple. And he simplified things down to the level of what we've been trying to say. Gary is a human biologist. He is not a physician, nor are we. We are not doctors. This is not medical advice. Anything that we say is our opinion, but it makes a whole lot of sense. We have been living this lifestyle for the last almost 6 years, and I can tell you that a lot of what he's saying holds to be true, just on our experience.
We just passed 6 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, my math was wrong then.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're now over 6 years. We have been following a ketogenic lifestyle.
Yeah. Low carb, whole food, no sugar, no grains.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I can tell you at 52, you are almost. I don't necessarily know what I'm supposed to feel like, but I probably don't feel like people think I should feel at 52.
Yeah, I feel good.
Yeah, I feel pretty darn good. Even after, many of you might know, knee injury like 4 months ago. Now, like just 4 months, major knee injury and getting better.
Yeah.
My body is recovering much faster than I anticipated.
And the reason why we farm, like this, it led us to this entire regenerative agriculture movement. We wanted the best food that we could have that would nourish our body, to provide health to our body. Mm-hmm. And we decided the best way we could do that was to do it ourselves. We've got some really exciting news we wanted to share with you.
We have officially launched a Patreon to give us the opportunity to connect more with you behind the scenes.
We've been trying to figure out how we can share more of our life without having to battle the YouTube algorithm that would punish us for putting out things that aren't high quality. So we've decided that Patreon is a great way of doing that. We'll be able to share behind the scenes looks at things that are going on around the farm, recipes. We've even got planned in some live Q&As, lots of different things that we will be able to share with you that we just can't quite do with YouTube.
Another thing that we're looking forward to sharing with you our raw life a little more often and giving you the opportunity. We have so many listeners and viewers that are coming on that wish maybe that they could support us in some other way. And this gives you the opportunity to support the farm and be a part of what we're doing here in the movement that we have going on.
So if this is interesting at all to you, click the link in the description below and it'll take you over to our Patreon where you can join the Air to Ground Farms community.
We look forward to meeting you and seeing you guys over there in that area and actually getting to know you a little bit better. So, one of the things that Gary really touches on in the podcast, and what we would like to do today is just kind of discuss the podcast, summarize it a little bit, give our take on it. But we highly recommend, and we will put the link to the podcast. I've shared it with all of my children. Please go listen to the full length of the thing. It's over 3 hours long. They were committed.
Yeah.
I ain't got that kind of time.
No.
So what we want to do is break it down for you, a few of the highlights in there, and just have a common sense discussion about the things that are going on in our country.
Yeah.
And one of the things that Gary really brings up is the faith in the fact that the human body can actually just kind of take care of itself.
Yeah. And that is opposite of what we're all taught. It's opposite of what we're all led to believe.
Right.
If you go into a doctor's office, the likelihood is you're leaving with a prescription for a medicine for something. You are probably not leaving the doctor's office with advice on how to change your lifestyle.
Yeah, there's not going to be much discussion on nutrition, what you're eating, and what you're doing with your life at all. We have some really dear friends that they went to have their annual checkups a couple of years ago, and they had done their blood work. They took blood, but the blood work wasn't back, and the PA, I believe it was, kind of confidently said, "Oh, don't worry if there's any, high numbers, cholesterol or whatever. We'll get you on something."
Yeah.
That's just the norm.
Yeah.
You go in, especially in your 40s.
If there's high numbers, it was just don't worry, we'll review your blood work and get you on something.
No, thanks. Right. Like, wait, what? Like it was just an expected thing. And it is. After all this stuff with my knee, people in the medical field who were caring for me. And we are very good, by the way, at fixing broken things.
We, the United States healthcare system, is very good at acute injury.
Sure. I tore it up and they put Humpty Dumpty back together again really well.
I sliced my leg pretty good a couple of years ago.
Yeah. And they fixed you right up.
Fixed me right up.
Got you all cleaned up.
You got a new tendon in your knee.
Yeah. So we as a nation and our healthcare system is very good at that. Cool. But the fact that we've got to throw a pharmaceutical at every potential, even maybe problem is really where we're falling off the rails.
The United States spends more than any other developed country on healthcare, by far. The United States has the lowest life expectancy of all of the developed nations by a matter of years.
That's crazy.
Those two things don't go together.
We spend more and die sooner.
That shouldn't be the relationship between those two numbers.
No.
A couple of things. One is, if that's the relationship, then start spending less so you can live longer.
Oh. Okay. But here's the thing. The pharmaceutical companies and Big Pharma really are for-profit organizations, and they depend on sick people to continue to create a profit.
So I believe that there's an overall unwillingness to believe that there's something nefarious going on, right? Like they're all just trying to take care of us. But again, I would point to, we're spending more money than anyone else, and we're living less years than anyone else. Like these two things, that is illogical. It does not go together.
Right.
And if it is going together, like if those two things like the data shows that they're both true.
Hmm.
Something is wrong.
Yeah.
Something is broken. Something needs to be fixed.
Well, Gary talks about, let's just talk about a couple of examples. One of them being when you go to the doctor because you have a symptom of, say, vitamin D3 deficiency. Okay.
Yeah,
One, that's a one, that is one symptom. The body lacks D3 for whatever reason, and we can discuss that if you want to. But from this one thing, you can get all the way down the cycle of, and he talks about it at length in the podcast, joint pain and inflammation, misdiagnosed as rheumatoid arthritis. So now you went from a simple vitamin deficiency to now we're going to call it rheumatoid arthritis.
but we don't know that we have the vitamin deficiency, right? So what we have is joint pain. So we go to the doctor
For joint pain.
for joint pain.
Okay.
The doctor does not say, let's test your vitamin 3 level or your vitamin D3 levels.
No, they give you a
The doctor says,
steroid.
oh, you have joint pain? You're 50, you obviously have rheumatoid arthritis.
Right.
All 50-year-olds get rheumatoid arthritis. Let's get you on a corticosteroid to deal with that joint pain.
Well, it's known that corticosteroids, especially long-term use, damages joints.
Right.
The joint themselves.
Right.
Well, over time, now you've damaged a joint. What's that going to lead to? In a matter of a few years, statistically about 6 years, you're looking at a joint replacement.
Mm-hmm.
So you went in because you have joint pain, but you can be nearly guaranteed about 6 or 7 years after that, if you follow their prescription, they'll have you back in, take good care of you, and make sure you get that knee replacement or that hip replacement, whatever joint it happens to be.
We're number 2 of all of the developed nations with hip replacements.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's staggering.
I think it was Sweden.
Really?
Might do more hip replacements than we do, but we do more hip replacements than most every other nation.
But if you continue down their prescription, so now you've replaced your joint, well, that does reduce mobility. And I can tell you after this knee injury, it'll reduce your mobility. And you better be dedicated to working through the pain and re-strengthening your joint and getting back up and getting on the horse, right? But if you're at that age where you're probably needing a joint replacement, getting up is hard because you haven't been getting up as much. And the next thing you know, you're sitting more and it's going to lead to an earlier death.
Yeah. The more sedentary you are, the earlier you're going to die.
So if you follow their prescription for joint pain, statistically, you're nearly guaranteed you're going to die earlier.
Right.
When the problem very well was the fact that you don't have enough D3 in your system. That's our medical system.
Correct. Because there is no focus on lifestyle and food and nutrition, right? Mm-hmm. The focus is on what prescription can I write you? The doctors, again, they are wonderful. They are amazing with acute injury, but if you go in for joint pain, they don't get any kickback from you need to eat more foods that have vitamin D. You need to get outside. Right? Like they don't get anything from that.
Let the sun hit you.
The sun needs to be hitting your skin.
Drink raw milk. There are things that you can do. Eat more red meat.
Fatty fish. Like there are things
bacon. Or at least maybe not bacon, but at least pork belly.
You know, the whole thing, I have joint pain. It does what you don't get out of that conversation is let's do some blood work and see what your vitamin levels are.
Let's see where your deficiencies are.
Maybe you're deficient in some nutrient.
And he really hits on that a lot. Is typically most of our problems stem from some level of deficiency within our body.
Gary believes that we were wonderfully and fearfully created, and the things that we need to prosper and thrive are available to us without having to be made by humans.
Yes, he does. And so that really aligns with how I believe that the human body was designed. And it is it's such a phenomenal mechanism,
Right.
in each and every cell is just amazing all by itself. But he really does believe that and talk about that.
Yeah. The bottom line to that discussion is that oftentimes very simple lifestyle changes can kick us off of the hamster wheel that the big food, big pharma, medical,
Mm.
you know,
Establishment
medical
or
establishment.
medical industrial complex.
Yeah, you get on
Yeah.
this hamster wheel, and the food causes the deficiency, in comes the drug to the medical establishment, the hip replacement,
Yeah.
and it just like you get on this wheel
Right.
and you just keep turning. We've talked many times on the podcast about the issues with metabolic disorder and type 2 diabetes. Man, you want to talk about a hamster wheel?
Yeah.
You get on that hamster wheel, and now they have a hamster for life.
And these days it's getting younger and younger. They've got them longer and longer, except they're not going to live as long. So the earlier you have metabolic dysfunction,
Yeah, but let's talk through that again. Logically speaking, type 2 diabetes used to be an older aged disease,
Mhm.
right? There was no early onset.
Right.
Like that became a thing.
Yeah.
As in the transition,
Yeah.
we talked about early onset. Now we don't talk about that at all because
Mhm.
there are children that have type 2 diabetes.
Right.
But it used to happen later in life, right?
Mhm.
So a portion of the population got this disease towards the end of their life.
Mhm.
They were dealing with it for 10, 15, 20 years, whatever, right? So even if the young person is going to live 3 or 4 years less,
It's still
if you're getting type 2 diabetes at age 5 or 6, you you're still dealing with you're still prescribed medicine, you're still injecting money to the big pharma
yeah.
for 70 plus years
Right.
if you live your average life expectancy.
Mhm.
So, over here, the way it used to be, you would get, type 2 diabetes drugs for 15, 20 years.
Mhm.
Now, if you get
Maybe
type 2
50,
diabetes when
60
you're
years.
5, 6, 10, 20,
Right.
you're paying for those drugs for the next 50, 60, 70 years.
Okay. Well, you mentioned lifespan, longevity. There are some places in the world, they call them blue zones, and these people live like they live a lot longer than other places in the world. You get
100
100-year
plus,
olds,
yeah.
100 plus easy
Centenarians.
in these locations, which would be great, especially if you're still mobile and living your life up until your life ends.
So let's look at them.
That would be great.
They should all have something in common, and it should be a diet, a lifestyle, a drug that they all take. There should be something.
Yeah, actually, there's not any much in common with the different zones. They all eat a bit of a different cultural diet. They all live in different regions of the world. Their climate is different. Some of them are just really not even doing what they should. They might be smoking and drinking wine, and they're still living a long time. So it debunks the myths of a specific diet. Now we talk about eating ketogenic diet often. We like that. We like the way that it makes us feel. But a specific diet and the dogma behind diets, whether it's vegan, carnivore, vegetarian, ketogenic, Atkins, I don't care what it is. But the point is, all of these people who are living to be 100 years, dude, they have not been eating a carnivore diet for the last 100 years.
So the thing that they all have in common is they eat whole foods, foods that have always been foods, not foods that are chemically whatever.
Right.
They're eating whole foods and they're active.
Yep. And now in some of the regions, they are, let's say Sardinians, for instance, they eat a high carbohydrate diet. They live a long time. but they're eating whole food carbs.
Yeah, they make it out of their flour, which isn't enriched and bleached and all of these things.
Right.
And th- they live in a mountainous terrain. So they're hiking up and down hills just to go see people, and they oftentimes walk.
Mm. So all of the movement
I've
to
been to
eat.
Sardinia, by the way.
Have you?
Mm.
Well, that's cool. Oh yeah, I remember that story. So this guy is flying F-15s back about, let's go with 20 years ago. And he decides they're going to take an out and back, which is we're going to fly out, we're going to land, we're going to do some stuff, we're going to come back for the day. And he calls and says, yeah, we're taking an out and back. I'm going to go have lunch in Sardinia. I'm home with like kids. It's
Yeah,
like, well, you have fun with that, buddy.
it was very cold and foggy when we took off from
Uh-huh.
England, and I went and had a panini on the beach and picked
Yeah.
up a couple bottles of wine and brought them back to you.
Yes, you did. That was very sweet. But he went and saw the sunshine. Oftentimes, he would go flying. We were living in the UK, which can historically be very cloudy for portions of the year. And he would go up and he would fly and he would come back and he would say, it's still up there. I'm like, what? It's still up there. The sun, it's still up there. I'm like, awesome. It's good to know.
Hadn't
I'd
seen
like to
in
see
2
it. I hadn't
weeks.
seen it in 2 weeks. But anyway, so Sardinians, they live an active lifestyle. They walk up and down hills to go to church and be with their families and down the hills. You know, sometimes down the hills can be harder than up the hills when your knees hurt.
Yeah.
You know, but anyway, they live an active lifestyle. They are in relation with their families probably more, and their community and purpose and whatnot driven. But mostly they eat whole food.
Yeah.
Which mostly we do not as a nation. Like 57% of the American diet, if I remember right, is of the American adult diet is ultra processed food. And 67 nearly percent of the American children's diet is ultra processed food.
Yeah.
We don't eat whole food.
There's a lot of times you'll see varying numbers,
Yeah.
but they're in that general range.
Yeah.
And for me, it's encouraging that you're seeing a lot of numbers. That means that a
Well-
lot of different people are looking at this.
Oh, there, yeah.
A lot of different people.
Sure.
So pick which numbers you want.
Mm-hmm.
It's nearly 2/3 of adults are getting their calories from ultra processed foods,
Mhm.
and nearly 3/4 of children are getting their calories from ultra processed foods. So
Wow.
it's like
It's
it's
staggering.
it's a lot.
It's staggering. It really is. We don't eat real food. We eat food like products that come out of boxes created in a factory.
Like the products that we talked about on a podcast a few weeks ago
Mhm.
that the companies are making that are getting sued right now in a
Yes.
class action lawsuit for purposefully targeting children with foods that are making them sick without any kind of warning labels.
Yep. If you haven't heard that podcast, make sure to go back and watch that one about Kraft and company and all of the other PepsiCo and all the
General Mills.
big food is being sued by a 16-year-old. But you mentioned all of the activity that Sardinians and other blue zone type areas, the people get that activity.
Mhm.
One of the things that Gary mentioned was sitting and our quest for comfort. He really hammered on sitting has become the new smoking.
As far as health is concerned.
As far as
right?
health is
Like
concerned.
it is as bad for you.
Right.
Or
And that went, oh, wow. First of all, we live in the Ozarks, so we walk hills every now and then. So I'll call that a
every
bonus.
now and then.
Well, I'll call that a bonus. You know,
I chased those ram lambs up and down the
yes,
hill.
you did. I couldn't help, but you did a fantastic
Outreach.
job. Well, aren't you glad that you get to walk hills a lot?
I do.
Yeah,
I am
yeah,
very
yeah.
glad. I should be living to 150.
So sedentary lifestyles are now the leading cause of all-cause mortality. Netflix is not helping you.
Hmm.
It's not. It may be fun, but sitting is not good for you.
Yeah, the insatiable quest for comfort.
Mhm.
Like we can't get comfortable enough in every aspect of our lives. And like there's much that is designed to increase comfort. And the more comfortable we get, the more sedentary we become.
Mhm. Wow. Well, and that's when we lose muscle, and muscle equals longevity. When we sit, I can tell you what happens to a muscle when it doesn't get used. It happens real, real fast. It just goes away.
The body is very good at recycling materials.
Right.
And if it's not being used, it'll take all of the building blocks from that thing and go use it somewhere else.
Yeah, my leg shrank really, really, really fast, and it takes
Days. It was a matter of days
and that it was like shrunk up. It was crazy, but it takes weeks and months
to build it
to
back.
build that back up, and I'm dedicated to doing that. If a person isn't, then they're just going to have to do without it
Yeah.
until they become so frail. But here's the thing: muscle equals longevity. One, you can get up and move about. And the Sardinians and other blue zones are proving that moving is keeping you alive.
Yeah.
But it also helps more muscle mass we have, the better we regulate our blood sugar.
Mm-hmm.
And the better we regulate our blood sugar, the less stress our body is under, the less inflammation we have, the less oxidative stress. And so just having muscle mass, it literally can increase your years.
Yeah.
So is there a way that we can keep muscle mass into our 90s?
Move.
Just keep moving. Put weight on you, bear weight, stand up, walk about,
Yep.
and do things. Yeah. So back to Sardinius, the steeper, it turned out the steeper the slope, the longer that they lived. That's crazy,
Isn't that interesting?
man. So, stop riding the escalators and just walk up the stairs,
Yeah.
that kind of deal. So the industrial health complex and their business model through things like statins and cholesterol and what they say will keep us healthy and alive is I've kind of become, man, if they say go left, I'm going right, like genuinely. Because if they say that it's healthy, or if Big Food says that it's healthy, or if Big Ag says that it's okay, or any, I'm I'm cocking my head.
So look at Big Food for a moment. I'll just pull one out.
Okay.
Let's look at Big Food for a moment. The products that are marketed as healthy
Mm-hmm.
are ultra processed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Nobody is marketing ground beef as healthy.
No,
Like
they vilify it.
it doesn't have a sticker on it that says healthy or heart healthy or any of these things.
Mm-hmm.
Broccoli, I, I picked up some organic broccoli
Yeah.
from the store the other day, and I don't remember any advertisement, signs, indications on the packaging, nowhere
Mm-hmm.
that it was healthy. There wasn't a little heart on it. There wasn't you know, American Diabetes Association recommendation.
No
Like,
association
there was
was
nothing.
on the front of it.
No.
Mm.
You have to go to the ultra processed foods to find that.
And that's what Americans are led to believe is going to give them health. And it's wrecking our bodies,
Right.
just genuinely wrecking them.
So we talked about the food. Let's look at one of the health issues.
Okay.
And we'll just pick out not even total cholesterol, just
Okay.
pick out LDL, the low
Okay.
density lipoprotein.
That's fine.
And it has become absolutely vilified.
Mm-hmm.
And for a few decades now, there's been this drive to get cholesterol lower and lower and lower and lower.
And the brain requires cholesterol. The body requires cholesterol. The body makes cholesterol. Cholesterol is not the villain in the story.
The way Gary describes it is the making cholesterol the villain of the story is like, it is akin to saying we need to get rid of all firefighters. If we got rid of all firefighters, we would just have less fires.
Because every time you go to a fire, there's firefighters.
Right. So if we just got rid of firefighters, we would have less fires. We could do
That's
away
a really
with
great analogy.
we could do away with fires if we just did away with those firefighters.
So cholesterol being the firefighter, trying to fix the problem by trying to get rid of the firefighters, the problem is still there.
Right.
The problem is probably continuing to amplify throughout your entire system through oxidative stress.
Yeah. So, and the biggest issue with cholesterol, right, is in your arteries.
Sure.
And what ends up happening
Cardiovascular disease.
Yeah. So the things, these ultra processed foods, the seed oils, the things that we're eating that are ultra inflammatory
Mm-hmm.
cause inflammation inside our arteries. They cause little tears. Cholesterol comes in and fixes it.
Cholesterol's not the enemy.
But cholesterol does start building up. The
Right.
fixes do start if you put a Band-Aid on top of a Band-Aid on top of a Band-Aid,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't ever fix what's causing the issue in the first place.
Ultra processed food.
The ultra processed foods causing the inflammation,
Uh-huh.
right? Like if all you say is stop putting Band-Aids on,
Right.
right? That's
Right.
all you're saying.
Right.
When you say get rid of the cholesterol, you're saying stop putting Band-Aids on these micro tears in your arteries.
So the medical system, instead of saying, let's get rid of let's get rid of the actual problem, let's put the fire out through lifestyle changes. Here's a statin.
Right.
Well, that statin is probably going to be somewhat successful in lowering the cholesterol in your body, but it's also got a few consequences and side effects to it that are going to lead to a faster downhill decline than you would have. Well, let's just talk about there's going to be joint inflammation, hormone disruption. What else is it called? Oh, mental degradation.
Yeah,
So
cognitive
decline. Statins affect your actual mental acuity because your brain needs cholesterol and fat.
It's made up of cholesterol.
Yeah. So just with one myth of cholesterol being the bad guy, the LDL, as you spoke about, just with that one thing, they have multiple things now happening. They got patient again for life.
Mm-hmm.
When the statin is not even helping with the problem.
Mm-hmm.
How many, I don't know the statistic, how many people on statins still have cardiovascular event?
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. But the LDL cholesterol, going back to Gary Breka and the blue zones,
Mm-hmm.
they find that the vast majority, if not all, of these centenarians have clinically elevated LDL.
That's so interesting. So the higher your LDL, the longer you live in these places.
These particular studies are showing,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like
I get the wording.
Here's where we get into, as soon as you start saying things like this, the medical complex, the big pharma, you're going to become vilified, and there's going to be studies that they pay for that are going to prove how you're wrong.
Right.
Right. So you have to be careful where you're getting the information, and I get that, but they are finding that these blue zones with their centenarians, people over 100 years old,
mm-hmm.
are having clinically elevated LDL.
And when you say clinically elevated, that is a number higher than clinically,
and it keeps changing.
Oh, got it.
Right.
Like how high is too high?
Yeah.
What clinically in the United States, when you go to the doctor, if your cholesterol is above X, that would be clinically elevated.
Right.
So, but that number changes with whatever they decide, I guess.
Each year it seems to be getting lower.
Well, I have high cholesterol.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
right?
I don't even care. Yeah. But again, we're not doctors. We're just talking to you about, studies that happen in other parts of the world also. Wow. Hey, here was an interesting one that he brought up, talking about the medical establishment, that it has been reported in some places, it has been uh, said that medical error is the number 3 cause of death in this country.
Yeah, it was a 2016 study. It's been often requoted, Johns Hopkins study, and um, you'll find it quoted 2018, 2020. There's another study in 2023, I think it was, that said, no, that's not true. It's not the third leading cause of death. There were books written on it in 2015.
Mm,
Why has it become medical error become the third leading cause of death? So there's something there again, right? Like,
right.
is it the third? I don't know. There's a study that says that it's up there. There's something going on. And third behind cardiovascular disease is number one, cancer number two, and then medical error being number three. There is something there.
Sure. Whether the statistic is 100% true or not, you do have to question what in the world's going on,
Yes.
And
Right.
again, we're not like anti-medicine people or anti-medical people, but the medical establishment right now is definitely under question with their motives. I just don't feel like they have our best interest at heart every day.
Hmm.
I it does begin to feel like we are being taken advantage of at every level when it comes to honestly agriculture, food, and medicine. They're all linked, and I feel like the American people, they're killing us and we're allowing it. And the only way that we're going to be able to stop it is to take back control of our own lives. We're the only ones who are going care about ourselves the most. Like they don't care. They do.
I will take you back to we spend more money than any other nation, and our life expectancy is lower.
Something's wrong.
Something's wrong.
Yeah. So what can we do? You know?
Eat whole food and move. Get up.
So it's really just that simple.
It's really just that simple. For us, ketogenic lifestyle is the way we like to operate, our body being fueled by ketones.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
love the mental clarity. I love the fact that I don't feel hungry. Like there are side effects of being in ketosis that I really like.
Hmm.
I don't think that's the only answer. I
No.
think it has a ton of benefits, but if what you're looking for is longevity, I think that the studies would point you towards eat whole food and get up,
Yes.
move your body.
Right. Eggs, butter, vegetables, beef. Eat more beef for crying out loud. Eat real meat. You know, eat the best food that you can buy. You don't have to eat at a bazillion calories. So you can buy a pound of ground beef, even if it costs you $12. Cut that thing in half, have a half a pound of beef, a slab of butter on top of it, and a glass of milk, and call it a meal.
Yeah,
You know,
especially raw milk.
and right, and you got $6 in the thing. You cannot go to a fast food restaurant and eat much of anything on $6 anymore.
Yes, sir.
So the point is, we can go back to like our great grandparents ate. I was eating a meal the other day and like, I think my great grandparents definitely would have eaten this. It was eggs and some butter and I don't know, there might have been some cheese in it or some ground pork or something, but it was all just food and salt and pepper. And they had those spices then. They had that food then. They ate that way. And I feel like if we could get back to, did your great grandmother eat that? No, because they didn't have Cheetos back then. Then don't eat it.
Yeah.
Let's go back.
RFK Jr. put out a little thing
Yeah.
recently that was very good. It was along those lines: eat beef, eat butter. He listed like these things:
Uh-huh.
stop eating sugar, get up and move, do this for 30 days. Let me know, you'll thank me, kind
Yeah.
of thing. I
Right.
was like,
Yeah. That's
man,
great.
yeah,
Yeah. It's true.
your body will thank me or something like
The
that.
medical establishment, the diet world, all of the people with not your best interest in mind, but their wallets for sure, will tell you a whole bunch of other things. And yet it's just so simple. Just so simple. Eat real food and
Yeah.
get up and move.
And then, I mean,
Oh,
there are things that you can do,
yeah.
like we mentioned D3,
Mm-hmm.
and there are things that you can do if you have the symptoms of a vitamin D deficiency, or if you have blood work done and you have low vitamin D.
Mm-hmm.
There are things that you can eat and do. Go outside, eat
Get some sun on your body.
eat some liver.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like there are
Right.
things, even if you have to take it in a pill form because you can't stand it, grind it up with your ground beef so you can't taste it. Like
Mm-hmm.
there are things that you can do that it doesn't have to be, y'all. We have some vitamin D supplements. We have some vitamin B12 supplements. After listening to this podcast with Gary Breka, I went and I grabbed our supplements and I turned them around and looked on the back side of them. All of them have vegetable oil,
Every one of them.
and they're not wrapped in like it's not a capsule.
Uh-uh.
No, I mean, like the ones I've been taking are a sublingual, so
Mm-hmm.
you just chew it up, right? It's like a powder. It's got vegetable oil in it, and
Mm-hmm.
the B12 is the kind of B12 that is a cyanide based B12. So, like, it's tiny, psycho. It's fine, right? For how long?
Right.
How long are you going to allow tiny amounts of cyanide to build up in your body before it becomes an issue?
Right. So what do you do? And we sat there eating breakfast the other day and I'm like, okay, fine. Well, stop taking those supplements. Where are we going to get those vitamins in the natural world? Where can we supply our body with what it needs by food that we eat?
Mhm.
And not, they did, my great grandmother did not have supplements,
Right,
right?
right.
Yours didn't either.
No.
And they ate real food. So I got to talking with ChatGPT, like, okay, where can we find this and this and this? And go look it up. You can put it, in the whatever. Tell people what to eat. But the point was, it listed out.
That's an that's
Tell people what to eat.
like I can't do that. We
No.
may be able to do some things. We've mentioned Air to Ground Thrive before. We may be able to put some stuff together with Thrive.
Right. That
And
just points people in the direction of what are the foods that I could consume that gets me to within the recommended amount for my body.
yeah, not surprising to me, raw milk has a lot.
Yeah. But pasteurized milk does not have a lot.
No, pasteurized milk doesn't have a lot.
No, it doesn't. Yeah.
Organ meat is
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Anyway, so the point is we can get the vitamins from the sun and from real food. Our bodies were designed to take that up in that way, and Gary really hits on that.
Yeah. Local
Mm.
food. Find a farmer. Are they growing it? It's like, for the most part, it's probably fine. It's good for you.
Yeah.
Eat that.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
You may want to question whether or not they spray something with glyphosate,
Yeah, I don't want that.
right? Like,
Yeah.
do you use spray poison all over your property? All right, I'll pass.
Right.
And some farmers do,
They
right?
do.
Like I
That's
get
fine.
it,
Yeah.
but I would probably pass on that.
Mm-hmm.
Find a regenerative farmer that's not spraying their property with all kinds of poisons,
Right.
and eat that,
Sure.
like whatever it is.
And the last thing is, look, the reality is no one's going to come and save you. They're not. They're not going to come and save me. No one's going to come and save you. We're going to have to do this ourselves. We're going to have to figure this out.
Yeah. If you look at the commercials,
The com-
They're all here to save you. Every new drug has got a cute little jingle about how they're here to save you. So
That is true.
if you just sit and receive information
Hmm.
that the mainstream is giving you,
Uh-huh.
you would question that statement. You would say, I don't think that's true. I think all of these medicines are here to save me. Just look. I, it would be an interesting thing to sit down in a typical 1 hour or 2 hour television watching session, like
Uh-huh.
figure out what the standard or the average person watches on, length of time on television, and then pick, I don't know, 5 or 10 different channels,
Hmm.
and then start keeping track of all of the pharmaceutical commercials
Hmm.
that
It's a
you're
lot.
exposed to.
It's a lot.
Uh, Go pharmaceutical commercials and ultra processed or fast foods, right?
Hmm.
Watch what happens, and that's where it is not common wisdom what you're saying. Common wisdom is they're all out to save you.
But well, as you mentioned, logic, because we're spending more than we've ever spent in any other country in the world, and we're dying sooner.
Right?
So it sounds like what they're doing and trying to save us is not, in fact, working.
It is not working.
It is not. And back to my point, they're not going to save us. We're going to have to do this ourselves.
Yeah.
We're going to have to go what they call like grassroots. We're going to have to just take care of it ourselves.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what we're here. That's what we're all about. Let's do it ourselves.
Yeah.
A little bit of self-reliance to create a little bit more freedom for
And
ourselves.
maybe some policies change, but
Maybe they do.
I don't think on an individual level you should not be waiting on policy changes. Right? On an individual level, you should
Mhm.
take care of yourself. Buy yourself some real food and get up.
I agree. Well put. That was really good. So we encourage you to go check out that really long podcast, but it is so packed full of. We touched on a little bit of the information that Gary and Ryan talk about in the podcast. If we hear something, see something, read something that we think that our audience could benefit from, that's what we try to do. Research it, listen to it, and then pass it on to you guys. And then go educate yourselves on how we can all live a better, longer, thriving life, right?
Yep.
We appreciate you guys hanging out with us again today here, and we look forward to seeing you in the next one. And you know what? We can do this. We can take care of ourselves, y'all.
Yeah. Look forward to seeing you over on Patreon also.
And until next time, bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.